designed, and they asked the question, what is the difference between the children who are raised in these times? We call these children the Generation Z and the Generation Alpha. And we asked, what is the difference between the millennials, children who grew up in the 90s, and the baby boomers, children who grew up in the 80s? What is the difference between these kids and the children we are raising today? If you have a child that is less than 10, you're raising a digital native. Children who are literally born into the digital world. Children as young as 1 year already have access to devices, and they operate these devices so skillfully. The children we are raising today there is a system, there are codes, there are things to do to enable your child thrive even as digital natives. Let's look at the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 32. It says that, and of the children of Issachar, going to thrive as digital parents, if you're going to thrive as parents who are raising digital children, if you're going to thrive as parents who are raising children who are literally digital natives, we must be able to understand the times and seasons. Everybody say with me, times and seasons. Times and seasons are different. Times and seasons have become super perilous. Now, I work in this space, so I'm not just telling you as someone who has knowledge. I'm telling you as someone who has seen the lives and destinies and innocence of children destroyed just because of ignorance on their guardians or on their parents' part. Now, the advent of technology, God created. God gave that wisdom to make the world better. But there is a perversion in our time. There is a deviation in our time that has made the enemy, or the devil in this case, equip his sons with a counter agenda that this thing God has designed, this thing God has created to make the world better. Think about the power of AI. Think about robotics. Think about the beauty that technology has brought into the world. But this thing that God has created to make the world easy has been perverted by the enemy and his people. Now, sometime in April or May, the story of a young man, a very pathetic story of a young man, trended. The boy's name was called Jordan Deme. Now, this guy was 17 and he committed suicide. Now, if you're online, you might have heard of this story. What happened? He started an online relationship. Now, something that we call sextortion, where people exchange nudes and they are blackmailed because of the nude. Now, this boy thought he was talking to a fellow 17-year-old white girl, not knowing that behind that screen were 3 Nigerian men who were scammers. Of course, they exchanged nudes. Sorry, I'm going to have to say a lot of X-rated things, but I need you to understand. I believe I have a lot of adults here. Now, this guy exchanged nudes with this guy who he thought was a fellow 17-year-old young white girl. Guess what? These were 3 Nigerian boys behind that screen. Guess what? At a point, they started blackmailing this boy. He sent them, I think, roughly about $300 that he had, and they still insisted that they needed more. And this boy in his chat, because his parents at the point had to bring out his chat after he lost his life, said that he was going to kill himself, that he didn't have any other money. And these boys told him that he should kill himself. Guess what? He killed himself. Now, the reason why I'm telling this is that the father of this boy said on Fox News that he was in his home and men came into his home and killed his son. Now, this is not a literal depiction of what he said. What he was simply saying was that he was in his home, and through this, men came into his home and killed his sons. Dear parents, this is not to sound an alarm. This is not to weaken you. This is not to frighten you. This is only to arm you with information that would enable you stay awake. This is to arm you with information that will enable you know what to do. This device is for good, but there is an agenda of the enemy behind this device. A lot of innocence of our children are being snatched right before our eyes because of ignorance. Now, in 2020, there was this song that trended where the LGBTQIA plus community, I don't know if you know what that means. You don't know, okay? It means The queer community, the transgender community, it means lesbian, like that, like that, like that. These guys have a mission. They put out a song in 2020 that they are coming for your kids. Now, trust me, these guys know that if they come for your kids, you're going to beat them physically. So they're not coming for your kids physically. They're not coming to your homes. They're not coming to your doors. They're not coming to your cars. They're not coming to your child's school, at least not in Nigeria at the moment. They're only coming to your homes through these devices. Now, also, a research shows that porn companies, permit me to use this word because we need to be factual for us to understand what we're dealing with. Porn companies are pumping in billions of dollars to target the games your children are playing. Now, I'm not capping. I'm not saying I have a full data on my phone. I could share with the women leader so you see it for yourself. These companies are sponsoring games. So your child is playing a game, but for them to move to the next level, there is an X-rated material that is placed there. And of course, you know that games come with a high. True or false? If you play Candy Crush yet, you know that, right? Games come with a high. It's the point you just want to know. You want to beat this guy, or you just want to win this thing, or you want to move to the next point, and something else pops up. And the child, in their innocence, taps on it. Guess what? A different world altogether. The devil has an agenda. Dear Christian parent, what is your counter agenda? These agendas are heavily sponsored. It's not in the tens of thousands of dollars. I'm talking in the billions and trillions of dollars. If these guys can take the innocence of your child, they have maimed that child for life. It would take a lot of effort. It would take a lot of grace on the part of God for that child to be saved. Do you know what it means for a 5-year-old to be addicted? Do you know what that means? You have the power to stop it now before the devil comes into your homes. The question is, what can I do and what can I begin to do? Hallelujah. Are we together? Now, how do we navigate this digital parenting thing? Number one, it's a simple. Introduce your children to God early. Now, I know that this might be like, oh, of course, we're in church. But let me tell you, as someone who grew up in the church, and as someone who has seen tons of children I grew up with in the church live the faith, it is one thing to come to church. It is another thing to be a Christian parent in spirit and in truth. Now, this is not just because we're Christians. A research by the Brigham Young University, they find that the best preventative measure and the best reparative measure for pornography is the true teaching of the gospel, not just on the altar, but in your homes. I want us to go home today and draw up a curriculum. A research has shown that a lot of teenagers, a lot of young people will drop the faith if parents continue to indoctrinate. You know how the people in the north, the religion in the north, how it's as if they've taken their religion and they've injected it into the bones and the bloodstreams of their children. That is what we need to begin to do. To inject and indoctrinate our children with the values. Because it is this value that will serve as an army when the perversion, because the perversion has not just come, it is coming and it will get worse as the days come. So your family values are super important. Just like Daniel proposed in his heart. Are our children able to propose in their heart? What are you doing to enable your child propose in their heart in your absence? If all your child does good in your presence, you've not done enough. They must be able to take those values you're teaching to the school and live it out, even when there's nobody watching. That is the true test of a child who knows their values. The next would be to create your media plan. Remember I mentioned that getting into the World Wide Web, WWE, is like giving your child a passport and a plane ticket to fly around the world without supervision. All your child needs to do is to tap open the Chrome browser, and they are plunged into, or they are thrown into a world that they cannot even, control by themselves. So if you're going to give your child access to a social media device, or access to a phone, or access to an iPad, you must create your own family media plan. Now, what is in this family media plan? Number one, when will my child have access to a device? Yourself and your spouse will have to sit down along with your family values and what you believe to answer this question. For me personally, I don't think a child has need for a personal device until the age of 16. I don't think there are a lot of repercussions. Just last month, a girl committed suicide because they have been bullied on TikTok. Dear parents, if you have a teenager here that is on TikTok, I am kneeling down in my heart to beg you, take that app and delete it from that child's phone. TikTok is a devil's agenda. There are hashtags that are so innocent, but inside those hashtags is a world of danger. If you have a child who is less than 16, please delete that TikTok app from them. They do not need it. But personally, I don't think a child has need for a personal device. Keyword is personal. There could be a family device. There could be a device that is shared amongst the family, but personal, like this is your own. I see parents give 10-year-old devices, and I'm wondering, do you know what you're doing? Do you understand the intricacies of handing a child a device unsupervised to get into the whole world? Some of us here can't even allow our children cross that road. But when you hand your child over a device, you're giving them access to the whole world just from this. So, and another thing, one thing I do personally for my toddler or my foster daughter is that I don't allow them access my phone. Recently, in my academy, I work in the parenting academy full time. We had to deal with a 5-year-old who was addicted to pornography, not by their parents' phone. I can trust what is on my phone, but I can't trust what is on the phone of the next auntie or the next uncle or the uncle in school. This child got addicted to pornography from their barber's phone. So he goes to the barbering shop to barb his hair. Mom is like, oh, my son is going to barb his hair. He's safe. He's not safe because he's having access to someone who doesn't have discipline, their phone. So for me personally, I think we should begin to instill that delayed gratification. When your child sees a device and they don't bother to touch it, it is a skill that will save them because you can trust yourself, you can trust your husband, you can trust your siblings, but you can't trust the teacher at school. A teacher was sacked just last term because he was caught. Children are here. He was caught in the classroom with his phone. He was literally caught. So please instill that discipline that my phone is mommy's phone. It is not for you. And if you're going to have access to the phone, please take permission. It should be explicitly stated for yourself. Remember I said that you're not doing it for you. You're not doing it for your spouse. You trust those guys. You're not even doing it for the people in church. You'll do it for the people that they meet outside. Have you seen children who just come and pick up anybody's phone to start scrolling? Do you trust what is in those people's gallery? If you had to bring out the gallery of people that are working on the street, your head will go big, come back, go big again, and come back again. All right? The next one would be, when will my child have access to a social media profile? Facebook profile. I see 10-year-olds on Facebook. What are you looking for? I see 12-year-olds on Instagram. What? Except if it's a parent that is influencer, they know their gig. But if you have a child that is less than 16, please, they have no business having a social media page. All right, the next one is distinguish screen-free zones. So let's even say that your child doesn't have a device, but they have a general tab in the house, or they have a general computer or laptop that they have access to. Establish where your child cannot use their phones. For example, in their bedrooms. Even in my home, even when you have access to a screen time for a limited time, you don't take it into your bedroom. For some families, you don't take it to the dining, you don't take it to the kitchen. There is a designated area that is the high traffic area in your home where your child knows that even no matter how tempted that they are to use that screen, they know that somebody can walk in on them. Your child needs that accountability. They need that boundary and they need that restriction. The next would be parental control. Please take this app, Google Family Link and Net Nanny. I know the parents have different ideologies. You have different things you want to do with your child. Fantastic, is your child. Do you? But please install this app, Google Family Link or Net Nanny. With these apps, you are able to supervise what your child does on their phones. No child should have access to a screen or a laptop without these apps, okay? The next one would be keep an eye on your teen's online activity. If your child has access to a device, thank you. If your child has access to a device, please always make sure that you're checking what they're doing. Teens are smart. They will delete the history. That is why you need these parental restriction apps to know what to do. Last but not the least, beware of excessive screen time. There is a whole world of research that shows that excessive screen time has detrimental effects on our children's behavior, social ability, emotions. Children who are exposed to excessive screen time are prone to emotional tantrums. So please, want to watch that. I would like to end all of this by quoting the book of 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 8. The Bible says, be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about seeking whom he may devour. In this case, seeking children, innocent children